In this short video, I want to discuss what we're going to call your stock report essay in terms of the language we've been using to date concerning sources, like a popular source and an academic source. All right, so what exactly is this thing that we're writing? And to answer that question, we need to ask, how are we going to cite our sources? What sort of sources are we going to use? What sort of contribution are we making? And what are we hoping to do for our readership or audience? I'll use readers, audience, the same thing. Now, it seems at this point, all right, now I have not asked you to do this, but we have not searched out to see how other people have written concerning what the best method of advertising is, retirement strategies is going to be. But I can assure you that this work has been done, all right? But there's something here about contribution that we need to think about. In a rigorous approach of this, where uniqueness and creativity and that own one's own voice is paramount. If we're in that setting, okay, then you really have to make sure that no one else has done the thinking or the argument that you're going to do, or the way you're going to articulate it, the way you're going to extend it or reestablish it or check it or expand it or challenge it or revise it or whatnot. That really does have to be unique to you. No one else has done that. So you may be in an environment of assessors, whether it's an editor or a professor or a teacher or your readers, okay, that are going to eventually consider it a good piece of writing or a poor piece of writing or somewhere in between. If you're in an environment of assessors that really privilege that and they want to see that, then what we're writing here is really not going to be of much value, all right? In their eyes, they're not going to assess it very highly because it doesn't meet that criterion of that sort of contribution. But let's sit back and think a little bit here, okay? The fact that there is a McDonald's 20 miles from here, does that mean that as maybe an aspiring fast food manager, I shouldn't try to start a McDonald's here in my town? Or think of a Payless shoe store or some store like that, a shoe store. So there's a shoe store in the town over there. Well, can't I try to make a shoe store here? Wouldn't I run a business there? So at times, you don't necessarily have to always be making this unique point thing happen, because the writing is still going to have some value with the readership that's localized around it. So we're not really putting that big of an emphasis on this report, all right? In fact, this report has a heavy pedagogical use to it, the one that we're writing about stocks, and that we're trying to take someone who's interested in this and concerned about it, and we're trying to give them basic terms, give them basic ideas, give them some basic scenarios that are like template scenarios that can fit other scenarios, other events or experiences. They can remember back to that scenario and say, oh, this is that type of thing. And so what we are really trying to do here is educate, right? Now look, education in that sense is always then taking a person from point A to point B, and the person who needs to be educated starts in point A, which is a point of ignorance. But we've all been there. So, but it is a point of not knowing, and then you seek as someone who's in the B category to bring this person by steps. You don't want to lose this person along the way, but you bring this person by steps so where this person eventually is in B. Those who know, those who don't know, those who know. So there's the process of pedagogy, and if your writing has any sort of pedagogical push to it, then you've got to start with terms that are familiar to these people, and then you introduce a different set of terms that brings them a little bit closer to the B group, and then a different set of terms, a different set of ideas, a different set of definitions, and it gets a little more challenging and stretching as you go, but they're ready for it because it's going by small steps. So we start here with their terminology, their idea, their mindset. We pull them forward to be. But what I am suggesting to you is that sort of activity really finds its home in a large part in popular writing that is carefully written and with a clear purpose behind it, but certainly not rigorous and ready to be peer reviewed by professional academicians. All right. If the type of writing that happens in the academy and that we have called academic writing, okay, is the B group, the people that are already in the know, writing to each other about advances or challenges or issues that they are, as a group, ready to consider because they have all this backlog or background already established. All right, so it is what we are doing now is not that sort of writing. So we have to, by default, say ours is more of a popular text than anything that we're producing, the stock report. But I'm going to throw a new term at you. Okay, so we've discussed the differences between popular writing and academic writing. But which of these two is professional writing? Well, the answer is they both can be, can't they? And the professional popular writing, is that what you might find in, say, Reader's Digest or Popular Mechanics or Popular Science or USA Today or Newsweek or any of these polished, reputable magazine / newspaper, okay, items. That's definitely popular writing because they're seeking to communicate to a wide audience that has not, and the authors are not assuming that the readers have done a lot of previous thinking or research on this topic. So they need an introductory level, but not so much so that it insults their intelligence. It's a craft. Now you need to catch their attention. You need to have a title that will cause them to read at least your first paragraph, at least your first line, and the first line has to be such that it induces your reader to read the first paragraph at least, and the first paragraph has, there's competition for attention. So you have to be supremely interesting. Again, without sounding corny or chintzy or hyped. So that's hard writing, and you do it well, it pays well. And there are plenty of instances of popular writing that's not professional. I would not consider our reports professional. They have a long way to go before they could maybe be that. But now in academic writing. Now, a lot of people are going to confuse academic writing with journal articles, and because they make that almost identity, they're gonna slip into thinking academic writing is something that is bound up in a book, printed on a page, because academic journal articles often seem to be presented in that format. Okay, in that if they are not actually in a handheld journal, which many of them are. They're going to be designed so that they look like they're coming from the handheld journal. So you get a PDF of the academic journal article or the Scholastic Journal article, and it's a PDF in the sense that it is it's a PDF, right? That's just a printing protocol thing. But if you look at it, it's trying to be an exact mirror of or facsimile of the book, even in the pagination and the way the page is laid out. All right, so people sometimes confuse academic writing with academic journals because most of the professors are busy writing academic journals. And then because of the way the journals look, they make the slip right into thinking academic writing is books and journal, handheld material and all that. But, I hope at this point we know better. Academic writing must have at least 4 of the 5 things we've talked about: an elevated and professional tone, a dispassionate tone, elevated diction, careful syntax, careful sentence construction, sophisticated writing skills, and a dispassionate clinical evaluation. So they're going to keep they're going to try to keep their emotions out of their argument. As much as that can be. And then it's going to be very, very willing to disclose its own sources. So you're going to get the end notes and the footnotes, or the back notes, or the end of chapter notes, or the reference list, or the works cited list. That's just going to give you, hey, here's the document, here's this, here's that, here's the film, here's the interview, here's where they got their own information from. Okay, so they're very careful about that. Citation and documentation. The third thing is they're going to be very willing to let you know what other people have written about their general topic. So they're going to try to stress the existence of the ongoing professional conversation about their work. After they do that, they're going to articulate the way they are contributing. Okay, so that contribution element for them is going to be very much a main part of whether or not it's going to be truly academic work. And the last thing, which I think is sort of just barely hanging on, we can debate this, but it's about peer review. And I would agree that some sort of professional examination of the writing has to be there, but maybe not necessarily peer review, because once you get people that give you thumbs up or thumb down, and it's a collection of them, and then you begin writing so that they would approve it, and then you're writing within the box instead of out of the box. And it's just some stuff with peer review that, and this has been noted before, that it's not the perfect, checking system. We think it is, but often academic writing is going to be peer reviewed. Now, notice I didn't in any one of those things mention that academic writing has to be printed, in the sense of or bound in a book. Okay. So let's get rid of those facile notions. And now, can there be professional academic writing? Of course. Can there be unprofessional academic writing? Of course. I read it all the time at my college, the places I teach. Students trying to approach that, because that's how I teach it, but just not there yet. So when I say professional here, I want us to use this term and say, look, what I'm writing here is a professional popular document. I want to at least aspire to that. That's what you should be thinking. So watch your colloquial approach, all right? Don't be too chummy with your readers. Don't crack jokes. Don't be cute with puns and that sort of thing. You do want to be interesting, and you want to be friendly, and you want to be easy to read. But there's a point where you can lose your professionalism. And there is such a thing, as I've explained, of the professional popular text, and I want you to aspire to that. All right, maybe we'll spend some time trying to find some of these, and trying to find their opposite, which would be the unprofessional. Try to find some of those, and look at the two and get a sense of how the professional popular writer is going to stay in control of the tone and of the mechanisms that induce interest, which often does include humor or some sort of conversational element, but certainly in a sophisticated way, a subtly sophisticated way. And I want you to keep a sense of professionalism with you as you try to write this out. So be careful, for example, about I would the word, how about this, and this would be a very small, not so great example, but it does serve something here. And if you would kind of see the kernel of the heart behind it and then expand it out, think of going to, or got to, I have to, let's go got to, G-O-T-T-O, and then gotta, or going to and gonna, G-O-N-N-A. You know what? There's actually a place to use G-O-N-N-A when you want to convey a certain sort of flippancy or it carries some connotation of meaning with it, as opposed to going to. But unless you have that, say in a caricature or in an end, sort of as you would use, a closing clincher or an opening scenario somewhere in there, and you're trying to emulate actual fast-paced, casual talk, I would stay away from that here. All right, you need to use, definitely stay away from slang or any sort of slangish words. All right, so unless you have a purpose for including that slang that you can articulate in defense of me, I would then stay away from the slang. I would stay away from the overly friendly, the overly chummy, well, I guess we'll just have to see some examples, but I do at least want you to think about this notion of the professional popular report, which I want you to think that you are writing.